Right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Mind the Mental Monday. I hope that everybody has had a great week and you're having a good day so far. I am grateful to be here. I um, found myself not feeling so great last week and ended up in the hospital for a night. Sorry, guys. I just need to connect my microphone. Sorry about that. Um, Did a little one night stay in the hospital. Uh, Everything checked out fine, so I'm grateful for that. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here tonight and happy to be here this week. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for I've gotten so much really great feedback and encouragement over this last couple of weeks. So I'm really grateful for those of you who are watching live, as well as for those of you who tune in on the Facebook page, for those of you who have gone back and watched the YouTube, all the episodes of Mind the Mental Monday on YouTube over and over again. I thank you for that. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for the comments and the questions and the feedback. It's all of it is so much appreciated. I just want to start off tonight just by saying thank you. Thank you for just continuing to support Mind the Mental Monday. And thank you for the encouragement because, I know I do these Mind the Mental Mondays every Monday, but hey, I'm human like everybody else, and I need encouragement too sometimes. And so I'm just really grateful to for you all for that. So I hope that you're coming in the room, those of you on Facebook. And so for those of you on Facebook, I have to say that I'm really grateful for my team who does their very best. If comments come in on Facebook, they do their very best to make sure that I get the comments because I can't actually see them in real time. As you probably know, I am, doing this through Zoom, and so I'm on my phone, on Instagram, and on my computer on Facebook. So I can see comments sometimes coming through on Instagram, but I can't necessarily see comments coming through on Facebook. So I'm thankful to my team who tries to make sure that I get to all of the comments or questions that you put in the comments. Please keep doing that. If I don't get to it, if I don't respond on the live, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's just because I didn't see it in time. And so I always after every live, I always kind of go back and look at the comments and respond to them. And so if you have questions or feedback, feel free to put them in the comments. Also, feel free to message me, and I will get back to you. If you have a topic or something that you're interested in, and maybe you don't, it's a topic you want, but you don't want everybody to know that you want that topic. You can always message me, and I will do something on that particular topic. So, all right, so let's get ready to dive into the mind the mental topic for tonight. And so the topic for tonight is you're still in the room. And the reason that I came up with that topic a couple of weeks ago, I was away at a meeting for work. And during the course, so let me go back a little bit and just be transparent. And I think I've spoken about this on Mind the Mental Mondays before, but very often there are times where I feel like I don't belong. Like sometimes I'll find myself in these in rooms and spaces where I'm just like, I don't know how I got here around very influential people and people that are at high levels of whatever it is that they do. And I find myself asking the question, like, why am I here? Usually in comparison to others that are in the room. So this particular time when I was away for a work-related meeting, I was um, really the only person of color in the room, and two, I was the only person in the room that didn't have like a doctorate degree. And and so I really had to do a lot of pre-prepping my mind before going to the meeting. And so I had done the work and I had told myself, when I go into this meeting, I'm going to walk into this meeting knowing that I belong here. The project that I was there for is a project that I manage, and it's a project that I'm knowledgeable about. I belong here. I belong in the room. And so I worked myself up to that. Like, yes, I belong here, right? So when I get to the meeting, I already have in my mind that I'm not going to shrink. I'm not going to walk in and then allow myself to kind of shrink back because worried about why I'm here, without some of the credentials that some of the people in the room may have had. And so I walked in, head held high, confident in myself and in my abilities. And the first thing that happened was I get there and my name is not on the list as being somebody who belongs there. Now, I actually am the one who submitted all the names from our group who were going to be at this meeting. And I get there and it's like, my name is not on the list. It's fine. Everything gets worked out. And yes, I proceed to the meeting where I belong. Then the next thing that happens is someone from our group did a presentation. And now I'm one of the only ones from our team that's actually there, that's actually in the room. And that person, and my name is on the presentation, but that person did not acknowledge that I was there. She acknowledged the other person that was there, but didn't acknowledge that I was there. So yeah, I felt a kind of way about that. So that was the second thing that happened that might, if I let it, make me sort of shrink and second guess and wonder, should I have come? Do I really belong here? Should I really be a part of this? And so I went back to my hotel room that night and I did a lot of praying about it. I did a lot of journaling about the experience and about what happened. And so in those two instances, there were two instances that could have made me feel like I don't belong here. I shouldn't have come. But then what happened later that day was we were all sort of put into sort of three working groups. And I'm the only one in my group representing my team that I was there with. And I have to say, I was able to hold my own in that group, right? Didn't matter that I don't have a doctorate degree, didn't matter, that I wasn't on the list when I initially came there. Didn't matter that the person didn't acknowledge my presence there. I was still able to hold my own. And so as I was sort of unpacking all of it. There were 2 days of meeting. That was the first day. Excuse me. When I went back the next day, I went back with my head held high, knowing that I belong here. Because guess what? Regardless of, whether or not I have the same level of degrees that everybody else in the room had, regardless of whether or not I was sort of the lead on a particular project, regardless of all of that, guess what? I was still in the room. And so I really want to encourage somebody tonight who maybe has been in rooms where you've asked yourself the question, how did I get here? Do I really belong? Am I really gifted enough to be here? Am I really educated enough? Am I talented enough? Am I whatever blank enough to really be in this room? I want you to know and to grab hold of the fact that you're still in the room. And there's nothing and nobody that can put you out of a room where God has placed you. So, um, I want to start off by saying that there is always a reason that you're in the room. And so I want to start off by just talking about some of the reasons that you might be in the room. You could be in the room because, you have a special skill that somebody can make use of in the room. You could be in the room because of a position that you hold. You could be in the room because you're the special guest of somebody that holds some kind of a position that allow them to invite you into the room. You could be in the room simply because God has given you favor to be in the room. And so we understand that you know in our limited thinking, favor very often doesn't seem fair to us because in our limited thinking, we think that favor is based on our own abilities. We think that favor is based on something, some kind of work that we do. We think that favor is based on how much money we have, how much status we have, what kind of house we live in, what kind of car we drive. We think that favor is based on material things, but I'm here tonight to tell you that favor is based on none of that. Favor is given by a sovereign God who decides what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, how he wants to do it, and who he wants to do it through. And so God has given you favor to be in the room. And when you're in a situation where you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is God's favor on my life, that I am in this room, because otherwise, if it were really up to man, to humans, they wouldn't allow me in this room, right? I might not have the skills that the other people have. I might not have the same educational background that the other people have. You look at all the things that you might not have, but regardless of the reason, you are in the room because you belong there. I want you to let that sink in because I think that too often we view ourselves as not belonging. We view ourselves as less than. We view ourselves as being beneath others. But the only one that we're beneath is our Creator. The only one and we're just a little bit lower than the angels, right? And so we have to understand, as I've talked about, I think last week, talked about our worth and how valuable, our Creator views us as. We have to now begin to see ourselves through that lens. And so, what are some reasons that we might find ourselves having the mindset of not belonging? What are some reasons that we find ourselves sometimes, depending on where we are and who we're with, there are times that we find ourselves shrinking. The reason that we find ourselves shrinking very often is that we have constantly fed ourselves the message of I'm not good enough. I'm not educated enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not at the level that would cause me to be able to feel like I really belong where God has placed me. But wherever God places you, I want you to know that you belong there. It's not even just that you're there haphazardly. God has placed you there on purpose and placed you there for his purposes. And so when you think about feeding yourself and what we feed ourselves naturally, if we were to have just a constant diet of, my favorite chocolate and chips, my um my those two things are things that I just need. If I know I don't need to eat it, I just don't need to have it in the house because I'm going to eat it. If we fed ourselves a constant diet of junk, when you take in junk, that's what you put out. And so when we take in the junk of I don't belong, when we put ourselves on a constant diet of I don't belong or I don't deserve, we will find ourselves putting out that 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 emulating that. So when people see us, they will see that in us, right? They will be able to see that we don't value ourselves in the way that we should. They will be able to see that we view ourselves as not belonging, and people will pl the spirit in some people, and there are all kind of spirits, right, that operate inside of people. The spirit will see that and play off of that, and then start to feed you even a more negative diet about yourself, right? And so you have to begin to feed yourself a healthy diet. And healthy diets are not just in the physical foods that we eat. We have to feed ourselves a healthy mental diet. We have to be mindful of what we're looking at, what we're listening to, what we are allowing to come into our minds. And not only that, but what we are feeding ourselves. What are we feeding? What are we telling ourselves? It's not even so much as what people on the outside are saying, as it is what you are saying about you. And so we shrink because we keep feeding ourselves these messages of what I'm not enough and I don't belong and what I don't deserve. So let's look at some definitions of the word shrink so that we can understand what it really means when we shrink because we feel like we don't deserve something or we don't belong in a particular place. So to shrink means to decrease in dimensions or value. And we talked about that last week, right? We talked about value and how what kind of value we place on ourselves. The value that we place on ourselves must be equal to the value that our Creator has placed on us. And if we don't place the same value on ourselves that our Creator has placed on us, then we are devaluing not only ourselves, but we're devaluing our God that lives in us. Do y'all hear that? we are actually devaluing the one who created us. There used to be a sign that said, I know, I can't remember the exact thing. It said something to the effect of, I know I'm valuable because God don't make no junk. And so, but when we view ourselves as junk, then what are we saying about our Creator? I mean, think about it. When we devalue ourselves, when we constantly feed ourselves the notion that we don't belong, that we are not valuable, that we, don't have what it takes really to be here, we are devaluing not only our how our creator created us, the fact that he created us on purpose, the fact that he knew us before he put us in our mother's womb. Um, we're also negating the fact um, that of what he has said about us. We're negating the fact and playing down the fact that we're made in his image. That's not something that we can play down. That's something that we need to recognize that when God places us in a room, when he places us in the places that he does so strategically. If you notice, God is strategic, right? If you read scripture and you will understand that God doesn't waste a thing. And he's strategic in how everything is placed and the measurements that are used. He is strategic about everything. And so he was strategic in his creation of you. He created you intentionally. It's important to really recognize that whenever you find yourself in a place where you feel small, and I'm telling you, it has taken me a long time to get here, of getting to a place of just of saying, you know what? I am not going to shrink. I'm not going to make myself small to try to make somebody else appear bigger. I'm not going to make myself small. I'm going to instead understand the intention with which my creator created me. And that because he's so strategic, and so intentional about how he does everything and how he places everything, then he's also intentional about the rooms in which he places me. And so there are times where God will place you in a room where you will think, oh my gosh, these people are so accomplished. They've done this and they've done that. But they can't, but you are the one that is sent to minister to them. You are the one that's sent to show them who God created them to be. You are the one who is sent to be a presence in the room on purpose. And so, yes, you belong here. You belong here. Wherever the here is, you are there with intentionality. And so when you shrink, it means to decrease in dimension or value. It means to recoil or draw back. And usually, when people recoil or draw back in a situation, it's because they are fearful or they are not, they're uncomfortable in the circumstance in which they find themselves. But guess what? God never said that we were always going to be comfortable. It is through our discomfort that we are able to grow. It is very often through our discomfort that we are able to recognize that we can't count on our own intellect. We can't count on our own selves just in and of ourselves, that there is something greater, there's somebody greater that is operating on the inside of us that allows us to be in the room. And so when you're in the room and you're uncomfortable, it's in your posture. You have to be intentional even about your posture, about sitting up straight and tall and recognizing who you are. You have to constantly tell yourself who you are and be intentional about it. And you may not be sitting there and saying, I am somebody. I am great because my creator created me that way. I am a child of God. All of those things, you don't have to say them out loud when you're in the room, but while you're in the room, you better be telling yourself that. You better be reminding yourself of that because every time you are in the presence of somebody that you view as greater than you, as more accomplished than you, as more educated than you, as more intelligent than you, as better dressed than you, and all the things that we have going through our mind, whenever you are in that room, you're going to be tempted to feed yourself that diet of who is greater. None of them are greater than you. The only one greater than you is your creator. The only one. Remember that scene in Roots? I'm dating myself now. But if you saw Roots, you remember that scene in Roots where he holds up the baby and he says, "Behold, the only thing greater than yourself." In other words, nobody is greater than you than God. So it takes a constant diet and reminder of who we truly are and not how we feel in that moment. Because in the moment, we feel like less than. In the moment, we feel like we just want to shrivel up in a ball. In the moment, we feel like we just want to, as my daughter says sometimes, we just want to crawl up in a ball and just disappear. But when you find yourself feeling that way, you have to pull yourself up, sit up straight or stand up tall and say, look at yourself in the mirror and say, you belong here. Unapologetically, yes, I don't have the same degree as you, but I still belong here. Because just because I don't have the degree doesn't mean I don't have knowledge. Just because I don't have the degree doesn't mean I don't have intellect. Those pieces of paper don't make you. And I don't put it down. I think that I think higher education and all of that, I'm all for it. I'm all for the work, and my my hat goes off as somebody who edits dissertations. Oh my goodness. My hat goes off to everybody who has gone through that process and done that work. But what I'm saying here is that is not the end all be all of who you are. All right? Does that make sense? Let me know how this is how this is resonating or if this is resonating with anybody else. Um, but understanding that you belong in the room. So in a metaphysical sense, shrinkage happens due to internal stresses. This is one reason that shrinkage happens. Internal stresses from manufacturing or heat exposure. So the question is, what internal stressors are heating up in you that's causing you to shrink back from your full potential? What internal stressors are heating up in you that would cause you to shrink from your full potential? These are questions to ask yourself. Another reason, a metaphysical reason for shrinkage is that materials that contain moisture shrink when they dry out. How many of you have found yourselves in a season of dryness? How many of you have found yourself in a dry spell that causes you to shrink? What what is drying you out? What's drying you out? What is it? Is it the thoughts that you're having? Is it that you feel um you feel like there's so much going on that it's hard to handle. Everything is coming at you in life. You know, we talked before about when life be life, and is it that? Like, what is drying you out? Is it that you have not spent time with your creator consistently on a daily basis? I know for me, when I go through, sometimes I will go through a point of, just not being present with God in the way that I should. And then it's like I just feel dry, spiritually dry. So what is it that is drying you out? These are just things for you to think about that's causing you to shrink. Another metaphysical reason for shrinking is a breakdown of the chemical structure of a thing. So what's breaking you down? What is breaking you down and causing you to think more about what you don't have or what you don't possess than what you do? What is causing you to break down? And so when we find ourselves shrinking, when we find ourselves in a period where we just feel like we're just recoiling because of fear of the unknown, fear of what people might think about us, fear of what we what we can't accomplish or what we think we can't accomplish, all of those things that cause us to sort of contract and shrink. When we find ourselves in that shrinking mode, we must figure out what we must do to expand. And so expanding means to stretch, right? So there might be times where in order to expand our thinking that we have to stretch. Sometimes that means literally stretching. I talk a lot about the importance of getting in physical activity, which I have not done in over a week because I've been really drained. Um, but I need to force myself to kind of get back to it because I can feel the difference. I can feel the difference even in my delivery tonight. I don't know if you can, but I can. I can feel the difference just because of how I'm feeling physically, just not quite all the way there. Um, and so sometimes, when you're exercising, it's always any fitness expert will tell you that it's important to stretch. It's important to stretch both before you exercise and after you exercise as you're cooling down. It's important to stretch while your body is warm, while your muscles can expand. Stretching is something that can help you mentally. So sometimes, even if you don't do any kind of a workout, if you just stretch, just take the time to do some stretches, it will make you feel better. But we also need to stretch our thinking, stretch our thinking about our capabilities, stretch our thinking about, our need to not fear what we don't know or what we don't understand. There's no need to fear. We have to stretch our thinking and tell ourselves, you know what, I'm going to try because guess what? I'm not trying it just in and of my own. right? I have a God who can do the impossible. And so that means that I serve a God who can do the impossible through me. Through in God, I can do, God will allow us to do things that in our minds, in our limited thinking, we think we can't do. Now, does that mean that we don't have to put forth the effort to maybe take a course, you know, go on YouTube, take a YouTube class, you know, a YouTube tutorial to do something? No, it doesn't mean that we don't have to put in the work, that we don't have to put in the effort. Stretching takes effort. I can't just sitting here in this chair is done do a thing. Like I have to actually physically do something. I have to lift my arms up, right? Oh, that felt so good just doing that. I have to, I've got, you got to do something we got to put something in motion. But with God, when we, when we put in motion obedience, it is amazing. It will blow your mind what you're capable of doing with our very capable God. The other thing is to moisturize, right? Smooth out the rough edges of our minds. We've got to smooth out some of that rough thinking that we have. I talked last week about allowing people to use you as their trash can. Like we've got to be able to to send that garbage to the dump, and we're not it. We've got to be able to speak truth to power within. That's not just in a political sense. That's also in a very personal sense that it we have to speak truth about ourselves to power, to be able to expand. And not when I say expand, I'm not talking about being puffed up. I'm not talking about being arrogant and conceited. I'm talking about taking authority over this stuff in your mind, knowing what to throw out and then what to replace it with. That is what I'm talking about. That is how you moisturize your mind. You smooth out the rough edges of your mind. Now we're still going to have some rough edges, right? It's still going to happen. But guess what? It's okay as long as we take the process and take the steps that we need to smooth out the rough edges and know within that we belong here, right? And then the last thing I want to say is to hydrate. If you notice, I have a couple of plants, a few plants actually, in my house. And there are times where I might forget. I usually am on like kind of like a weekly watering schedule for them. But every once in a while, the week will go by and I'll forget that I haven't watered them. And guess how they let me know? They let me know by drooping. When you don't water a plant, certain plants like the leaves will just begin to droop. But as soon as you hydrate them, almost as soon as you give them some water, they start to expand. And it's the same thing even with our physical bodies. There are times where I don't, it's like I feel a certain kind of way, and then I'll realize, wait, I have not had any water today. And almost as soon as I drink a bottle of water, I might like my skin will even start to plump up. When you're dehydrated, it causes your skin to kind of shrink up. It causes your organs to shrink. It causes you to not feel as well. But as soon as you consume some water, it will help you to expand. So we have to hydrate both literally and mentally, right? We have to find ways to hydrate and expand who we are in God. So I want you to look in the mirror and repeat to yourself, I belong here. I belong here. I am here on purpose. I am here for a mission. I am here to do a good work. I am here to get in good trouble. I am here. And even when you feel like you are less than or not as qualified or whatever the case might be, look at yourself in the mirror and say, but guess what? You still in the room. You got to do the snap with it. Guess what? I'm still in the room. All right. So listen, I don't care what it might seem like. When God puts you in the places where He puts you, even if you don't know the reason, it's okay. Just know, just let Him use you. You can't, he can't use you fully to your fullest potential in a shrunken state. He needs you to expand. He needs you to stand tall. He needs you to sit up straight, put your shoulders back, and sometimes even walk with a little bit of attitude, just a little bit of attitude. So, and that's more for you, so that you understand that you're not just walking in and of yourself. There's a higher power that's walking in you, and you belong here. That's right. You still in the room. All right, so that's it. That's all I got tonight. I hope that that it has blessed you in some kind of way. I hope that you're able to um glean something from what I've said tonight. And I hope that from here on out, whenever you find yourself in the mindset of I don't belong, I want you to throw that out and put in your head, yes, I do. I belong here. I belong here. And even if I don't have all the accolades that somebody else in the room might have, guess what? I'm still in the room. All right. God bless you. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I hope to be here next Monday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, please go and subscribe to the YouTube channel and go back, replay, check out the other episodes that if you've missed any of them, and continue to comment, continue to share, continue to let me know topics that you might be interested in. The end of the month, I'm going to have a very special guest with a very special topic that I'm excited about. I'm not going to announce it yet, but the closer I get to it, look for the announcements. All right. So God bless each and every one of you. You still in the room, and you belong here. Good night.